Hey guys, Chicken Domain, Debut.com with a Debut.com forecast update. This forecast update effective around 2:30 p.m. on Friday, September 15th, 2017. And okay, start you off with the 11 a.m. update out of the National Hurricane Center on what is Tropical Storm Jose. Jose is just shy of becoming a hurricane. In fact, we thought that this morning at the 11 a.m. update, we'd likely see an upgrade, but Jose now with, or as 11 a.m., max sustained winds 70 miles per hour, moving northwest at 9. And if you've been following along in our forecast updates, you know, we've talked about the cone of uncertainty. And we've noticed over the last, for those who've been following us on our social feeds, how the cone of uncertainty now, the western edge or the northwestern edge now covers land, and the National Hurricane Center is forecasting Jose to become a hurricane, move up past the Outer Banks, and then drop down to a tropical storm here just to the south of New England in here. And we are also keeping an eye on, and again, please bear with me as I zoom in and out today, we're also keeping an eye on what is 96L Invest. 96L Invest with a 90% chance of development. And this looks like it may become either Lee or Maria. There is the other system behind it, 97L. We are going to be focusing in on 96L, as that's the one that the models are beginning to hint at some development coming once past the 65 line. For those of you who followed our forecast or saw our video yesterday, you know, we talked about that we're approaching that time of year now with these systems coming out of the main development region. You've got to wait until they get past the 65 line into a more favorable environment, climatology-wise, where they get a chance to spin up. And again, National Hurricane Center showing 90% chance of development. Now, whether or not this becomes Lee or Maria would be the other name, is insignificant at this moment. And what the models show is also insignificant at this moment, because we get back into the same things like we talked about with Irma and land interaction. Because of where the storm is forecast, and we're assuming that it's going to be a storm, a tropical cyclone, where it's forecast to track and where the models show it going. A lot of times once in the Eastern Caribbean, strong easterly trades can develop and disrupt surface circulation, so it could be all for naught. We also have the high mountainous terrains of Hispaniola. Hispaniola is known to be a storm killer, and so storms moving across this way in this fashion have obstacles, just like we just saw with Irma. If you remember early on, that's what we talked about with Irma, the land interaction with Cuba, Hispaniola, and all of it. Now, the latest run of the GFS today, quite interestingly, and again, it's only one run, but what I found interesting was, you know, with the Euro and Irma, if you remember, the Euro took and tracked early on Irma through here just south of the Bahamas and split in between the coast of Cuba. Well, the GFS today takes 96L and moves it into here and pulls it up through the Mona Passage and then up in here towards the Bahamas. And so I just found that interesting how, you know, Irma was forecast at one point to dodge all of the islands and the eye just stay in this channel or canal on its way towards South Florida, and how the GFS chose to move it in here and then lift it up north. There's likely going to be tropical storm watches issued in here for the Eastern Caribbean. So Eastern Caribbean followers, please visit the National Hurricane Center at hurricanes.gov for all official watches and warnings. If watches and warnings are issued for your region or for your area, please heed the advice of the National Hurricane Center and your local, state, and county or municipality warnings. I'm going to move you over to some real-time satellite imagery now, and we're going to take a look at Jose. And so here's Jose here. Jose's forecast to continue to lift off towards the northwest. And we started seeing some signs early this morning on where Jose may want to go. And keep in mind, no one, including me, can tell you what the exact track of Jose is going to be. But we started seeing some clues this morning, and I want to remind folks that because we're losing daylight hours, visible satellite imagery is the most important imagery you can use when, at least for me, when I go to start identifying areas on where I think a tropical cyclone may be headed. So because of that, I'm having to wait longer in the morning on those first visibles. And as we get later on in the season and we start to lose darkness, then we switch over to infrared satellite imagery, and it becomes more difficult to get an idea. Anyways, this morning, for those of you who saw our post that we put that O in parentheses, it looks like to us, and again, there's the cone of uncertainty, okay? Just like with the National Hurricane Center, I have a cone of uncertainty too, because I don't know exactly where it's going. And now that we're switched back to this, okay, so just because it shows a tropical storm here, folks, does not mean that you can't feel the effects of this system. Think about this with me. A slow-moving tropical depression or tropical storm can have as much devastating effect or financial loss as a fast-moving hurricane. Weak areas of low pressure are known to produce copious amounts of rain. That's all I got to say for anybody that's looking at that going, oh, it's only going to be a tropical storm. You don't know what the models are showing at the moment, and there could be some larger impacts. I know I use the word major, and I don't want anybody to get confused that I'm suggesting a major hurricane. I'm just saying that there could be very large impacts that you're not thinking about. For those who saw that one wind image where I drew the black line, okay, so if we get 45 to 50 knot winds over here, further inland, that's going to knock down some limbs and knock down some power lines. Somebody's likely going to be out of power at least. So let's move on from here. Again, we started picking up signs. It looks like Jose is going to move up into here, just north of the Outer Banks, and then hook back up towards Cape Cod, towards New England. And if I zoom in real close, these are the little things that we kind of pick up on. And it's, you know, to us, it's in the visible satellite imagery. So you see this little white little puff right in here, and how it has that little circular shape. And for those who saw our post in here earlier this morning, where we pointed out just out here off the mid-Atlantic, northeast of the Outer Banks. Okay, so these are the things we look for. So we know that Jose's center of circulation is here, but we start to look out front and go, oh, okay, well, that's right. So northeast winds are starting to wrap in here. We know he's probably going to move up in this direction. National Hurricane Center is forecasting that. Let's go look further from here. Where could he go? And then we look up to where the models start to hint that he may go. Excuse me, guys, I've kind of got zoomed in here a little bit too much. And we look for other clues like that. And so we know that the forecast track from the authority, the National Hurricane Center, shows this track like this. It gives you confidence when you see it in the imagery that is setting up in the pattern. Now let's talk about this a minute again, because there's two things the National Hurricane Center has always, one thing the National Hurricane Center has always been worried about. One is it's been complacency. And let me define complacency for you. Complacency is sitting around watching the next model run or waiting for the next model run, hoping for a better outcome. Think about that. When it comes to time to get your supplies, there's an old saying says, better have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So think about that for a minute. The biggest thing or fear that the National Hurricane Center has is fake forecast on social media. Now, most of you might think that I'm picking on this guy, and I am in a sense, but I want to show you the definition of fake forecast. There's a reason why they call it fake book. And so this guy, he coined the phrase last year. Excuse me, let me get to my folder. He coined the phrase last year, Matthew, the storm that never was. He was telling people on the internet that Matthew was unraveling along the Florida East Coast and everybody was basically in the clear. On September 6th, he posted in a comment section replying to someone about whether or not it was going to go out to sea or not. He says, on September 6th at 8:40 a.m., mind you, the 2 a.m. National Hurricane Center update was already out. He says, exactly, probably won't even get near Cuba, scrape Bahamas. And then he replies, 2 minutes later, just check the current loop, already showing northwest bobbles. And then a few minutes later after that, back before modern forecast tools, the general rule was a tropical cyclone always takes the path of least resistance. Usually hot, sunny weather areas definitely ain't coming here. So then he follows that up at 8:13 a.m. with this, let's do the math, shall we, over the blah, 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 blah. And then he finishes it off by sticking, he goes, I will always take those odds by sticking my forecasting neck out with a no storm here outlook. It ain't rocket science, common sense, and first grade math. And then he takes and puts a red line around Florida and says that there's no storm coming here. But then you go look at the National Hurricane Center's. This is September 6th, 2 a.m. advisory. National Hurricane Center showing a major hurricane going up near Cuba and up towards South Florida. And he's telling everybody, he's sticking his forecast neck out there, that there ain't no storm coming here. And you know, that's okay if you've got some intelligence behind your thoughts of why you think the storm is not coming here. But according to him, the National Hurricane Center is in cahoots with the TV stations and the National Broadcast Network because they want ratings and they're trying to make the almighty dollar. Somehow, some way, he thinks he's smarter and brighter than some of the brightest individuals that work at NOAA. I don't understand it, folks. Be careful who you get your information from. Always verify date and timestamps. You could be looking at an image thinking that a hurricane is coming to you, and the image be 3 to 4 days old and stuff has changed. Verify who you get your information from, folks. It's not, it's not that difficult to figure out who's the one putting out the fake forecast and who's the ones are the accurate. But most importantly, the National Hurricane Center always has the lead call. There's a lot of smart people that work for NOAA. Switch you back over to, this is the latest, this was the GFS for 12Z for 96L. And this is just inside of 10 days. Okay? This is one run of many more to come. We've already talked about the hurdles that 96L is getting ready to face. We'll be tracking all of that for you here over the next couple of days. Right now we have bigger issues with what is Jose. And so I want to take you to, and again, let me get my bearings here where I'm at. This is the last night's run of the Euro. Okay, and then let me kind of zoom in a little bit here. Because we pointed this out in yesterday's video update, and we tied it to that song Mystical, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, because you ain't seen bouncing back. And this is what we meant by that, because, we talked about how the Euro showed it in 2 runs, but then it didn't show it yesterday. Well, it came back last night, and we're getting ready to be able to look at 12Z Euro here in just a minute together, because I have not seen the 12Z Euro. And going back to the GFS, I did post last night that maybe the GFS was back to its old ways and showing fake storms. But the 12Z or 00Z Euro last night has come on board with the GFS, maybe not as far as intensity, but has come on board with the GFS on 96L Invest. So, again, let me get my bearings here. This should be... okay, so here we go into real time now. This is Jose right in here. Let me adjust this for you. So this is Jose in here, and this is the Euro. The Euro takes it, lifts it up towards the Outer Banks, just east of the Outer Banks. I can't give you the timestamp on here because I've got it zoomed in where I can't see it. But just know that it's within 5 days because the National Hurricane Center, go look at the official map, but then moves it up here just south of New England, brushes New England just a little bit, but look what happens. It bounces it back towards the mid-Atlantic and then moves it ashore. Okay, and then, guys, that's where that goes back into. Just because it's a tropical storm, weak areas of low pressure known to produce copious amounts of rain. A slow-moving tropical depression or tropical storm can have as much devastating or financial loss as a fast-moving hurricane. Look down below in the Bahamas. There's 96L. Advance the model for you. This should be 10 days. Without me looking, this should be 10 days. So 10 days, the Euro is showing 96L east of the Florida coast. Now let's switch over to, wait, let me see what this is right here. Okay, no, that's Jose. Okay, and so here we go again. This was last night's run of the Euro. And sometimes I like to do this do it fast, because, did you see that? Okay, so we already know that Jose did a loop-de-loop, and we already know that loop-de-loop storms are unpredictable. We already know that we talked about with Irma being going against conventional wisdom or conventional thinking, and we said that Jose would likely follow suit. Well, you look at that model run right there. That goes against conventional thinking, folks. All right, now let's go let's go look at it together. We'll go look at the afternoon run of the Euro. It should be completely loaded now. It was only up to 96 hours when I looked. And it's going to take me to 168, so I need to back that up. Okay, so this is going to be real time. And so here's Jose. We're watching this together. Jose up towards the mid-Atlantic. Same thing it's been showing. We know that within 5 days, the margin for error in the models decreases. Again, a brief little touch there to New England and Cape Cod. And then guess what? Okay, so it looks like it's trying to show that bounce back again. And that's at 7 days, 168. I don't have time to sit here and wait for it to load all the way. Follow us on our social feeds for real-time updates. Follow us on Twitter at Dadabuh. That's DADABUH. Follow us on Instagram at Dabu Surf. And I think it's on Facebook, whatever. Follow us on our social feeds for real-time updates. We skipped going to work today to bring this to you guys. Look, 96L in here. Let's back that up 1 second. Look at that. What did we just talk about the GFS moving up through Mona Passage? There it is. There it is. Stay tuned for the next update.